Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. This is a webinar from Sano and Doug Richards, who is CEO. It's all about eating well and living more and what we can do to make sure that we're eating as healthily as possible. He's going to give us a little bit of a preview of workshops that they do for corporate clients and personal people as well. So over to Doug from Sano to take us through it. Over to you, Doug.
Morning, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Just shout if you can't. Great to be with you this morning, and thanks very much for enrolling and joining me. I'd love to take you through a quick introduction to who Sano is and what we do, and a little bit of a taster of actually, what our workshops typically look and feel like, and then, take any questions, any comments you'd like to make generally throughout, and we can take it as it comes, really. Firstly, what I'd like to do is just actually introduce myself and Sano, really. So, we established Sano in 2015. It was established by my wife and I. I left corporate life. My wife basically had trained as a total nutritional therapist following, family, a process of discovery with 3 of our daughters and their diets, and it led us down a path, and we were always super into kind of, fitness and wellness, and we launched the Sano School of Culinary Medicine, training nutrition, health coaches, medics, and those interested in nutrition really for their own health, through in-depth courses, online education, as well as speaking at conferences, blogs, and everything else. And then the school became a wider part of the Sano group, and we evidenced what we were teaching on the high street. So we had a Sano food business for 4 years, while our lease, until our lease ran out. And we delivered food all over London. Any of you who may have experienced us, we were at Chancery Lane, called Sano to Go. We started the whole business really to spread the message that food is, really is medicine. But more importantly, to try and make basic nutrition knowledge commonplace internationally. The school now has hundreds of people studying with us all over the globe, from Australia to Japan to Canada. And we've been running corporate wellness workshops for companies and their employees for 4 or 5 years as well. Everything we do has the strong foundation of nutritional science. We don't follow fad or fashion, and we don't follow new diets or superfoods and all that kind of thing. We're just trying to be a reliable go-to source of, fact-based evidence of what we should eat for health, and also focusing on how we should do that, in terms of how we should cook it. I've also got, one of our partners we work with called Ryan Carter. Hopefully, Ryan, you're on. Ryan is someone we work with at Sano, and he's brilliant. He's a nutritionist and performance coach. He's got about 500,000 followers on social media, and he basically is one of the up and coming leading players in the nutritionist and performance coaching world. So if you want to check him out, his business is called Live Vitae, and you can see him on Instagram particularly, but the stuff he does is great, about the same kind of thing that Sano does. Okay, so that's hopefully given you an idea of Sano. In terms of the apologies for the odd message that pops up. It's hard when you're working from home, because you've got so many things up and running at the same time. The main thing, the context for today is hugely relevant. I don't know whether any of you have read that big study the Institute of Employment Studies did a week ago about people, how they're coping physically and mentally now for working from home. And, they surveyed, over 1,000, 2,000 people nearly. And, basically diet and exercise actually was a lot worse working from home. 1 in 3 were eating a less nutritious diet. 1 in 5 admitted drinking more alcohol. Poor sleep and increased risk of exhaustion because of fear and anxiety affected 64%, and some 48% admitted to working irregular and long hours. On mental health, half said they were unhappy with their current work-life balance, and work had started to play a much bigger part of their home life, funnily enough. Lots of feeling, a third feeling isolated, and nearly over a fifth worried about their jobs. So eating well, living well, and feeling good is critical at this time for employees more than ever, really. And the virus has given us all perspective on what's really important in life, family relationships, and how we work and who we work with, really. So in that context, we converted our workshops to virtual workshops, clearly. And we've been running these almost every other day for the last 5 weeks or whatever. We've been in lockdown for many companies, small, medium, large. And it's been hugely welcome, really, because it gives people a sense of what's important for their own health. It's not about, a business agenda. It's about, personal health. And actually, people are fascinated and very interested because of the need to boost their immunity at this time and counteract some of the, risk of getting the virus. When you've got it, how do you actually get out of it in a safe way, using diet as one of the most important levers you can to help you leverage your health back to normal. So that's critically important, really. So what I wanted to do now was really give you a quick taster of what we do in the workshops. This is not a full workshop. It's basically just an idea of what we do in terms of the approach. Workshops I'll come to at the end, but they're typically 1 to 2 hours. They're from typically 15 up to, we've done workshops for 100 people before. And I've done whole businesses, like the Nike store in Oxford Street, which is 400 people in literally, small groups upwards. So it is really bespoke to you in terms of the approach, but I'll come to that at the end, really. So what does eat well, live more really mean, and what is it all about, really? So let me just, take you through that in terms of the guidelines. Diet is absolutely key to health. Statistically, it is absolutely irrefutable that poor diet causes more disease than physical inactivity, alcohol, and smoking combined. So no matter what you hear, factually, that's the truth, is that actually diet, causes more disease than all of those combined, which is very clear. And it's very true as well. We are what we eat. So what we eat basically impacts every single body system, whether that's your respiratory, which is critical for virus prevention and health, immunity, your reproductive, metabolic, diabetes and obesity, skeletal, endocrine. Endocrine is really the glands that produce hormones in your body, your mental and nervous system, cardiovascular, and critical as well as digestion, particularly around You know, and obviously your gut and digestion and your microbiome are fundamental to immunity as well. So all of these are very, very linked. If you've read some of the statistical evidence, you know, over half of coronavirus, serious coronavirus patients in NHS hospitals over the last 5 weeks have been classified as being obese. In other words, being obese, and that might not be a diet issue, it might be for many, many, many other factors, you know, does result in a higher risk to, you know, catching the virus and then the impact of it when it actually does hit. So, you know, just to come back to why we started Sano, we started it actually because we were so, you know, wound up by diet frenzy. So this whole question of what's the healthiest diet. Many of you have probably even, you know, seen all of these kind of things from keto diets to, you know, 5-2 diet to, you know, Dukan diet, etc. Paleo, you name it. All of these are out there and being talked about hugely in various forms and stuff. Our answer is actually the right diet is a personalized diet for you. Ignoring all of those, you know, list of diets, actually the diet right for you is actually about you. It's about your personal circumstances, your age, your physical activity, your genetics, stress levels, you know, everything in terms of how you coexist in the world today is relevant for you in terms of defining that diet. So what works for one person may not work for you, and that's critical to find out. But how do you find out, you know, how can we guide you in terms of actually what that personal diet, you know, can look like for you? Well, firstly, to dispel some myths. These are all myths. We just need to lose weight. That's not true. Counting calories, you know, is the easiest way to lose weight. 1 pound of fat equals 3,500 calories. Counting calories is the wrong thing. You're looking at the wrong issue and solving it the wrong way, and I'll explain that. Fats are bad and make you fat. That's not true. You know, you need carbohydrate for energy. That's not strictly true either. I'll explain that. Eat small and often. You know, that's not, you know, it's a myth. And some of the diets I've been through are a healthier way of eating. Not necessarily so. And so, you know, you hear these all the time in terms of people following them or preaching them or, you know, being shared, but actually there's a lot of myths in that. Come back to basics and, you know, primal man and woman, you know, nutrients is in real food. I mean, it's as simple as that. And actually, real food diets is what is the key to nutrition. Real food gives you macronutrients, micronutrients like vitamins, phytonutrients, you know, that's what gives plants their multicolors and other things. There's other smaller nutrient groups and obviously water, you know, critical to body health. Let's go through some of those, particularly to deal with some of those myths. Not all carbohydrates are equal. So you've got a huge array of carbohydrates between simple sugars, starch, which is far more complex, and fiber. And it coexists in hugely various forms, but they mainly exist in plants. So in vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grains, fruits, this is where carbohydrates largely exist, and obviously dairy. And they also are hugely in processed foods. So in everything from hot dogs to pancakes to cereal to sauces, you name it, it's in every processed food element. The main thing about it is that sugar is detrimental to health. I think everyone kind of knows that now after the no sugar campaigns and stuff like that. But ultimately, you know, the science behind it is that high sugar intake drives a lot of problems with your health. Everything from digestive to high blood pressure to mood to allergens. The issue with sugar and excess sugar is that actually your body does, you know, your body is hugely efficient. It's the most, you know, finely tuned engine that you could ever imagine. But so what it does is when you're basically going shopping and eating food, it takes basically sugar and puts some of that into backup storage and short-term storage. But if your sugar in the blood, you know, in blood glucose gets excessive, then what tends to happen, or the body thinks actually there's too much here, that is, you know, I'm going to must store that in other places, and it stores it in the liver and tissue cells, thinking it's going to use for short-term energy. What that can lead to also is excess sugar being converted to fats, fats being pushed around the bloodstream and damage to blood vessels. So you get a buildup of fats in fat cells. So it's pretty obvious that excess sugar is not good. But it also leads to cravings, because this is what happens when you have spikes of blood sugar levels during the day. If people are snacking on processed foods, etc., and not eating real food, and you know, you basically go from boom to bust in terms of needing a boost to get your energy levels back up. But it's a very short-term fix because it crashes again. So that's a key point about sugar. The other point is calories and carbohydrate. Is chasing calorie counting is a bad idea. If you look at, you know, these type of examples, you know, fat and carbohydrate, certainly in terms of the energy, the kilocalories, calorifics in, you know, for instance, a good breakfast, avocado, smoked salmon and egg, you know, it's got far more build versus Rice Krispies and stuff like that. But this stuff is not good because a lot of it is driving those sugar intake and the wrong type of carbohydrates and fats. This stuff is definitely not. But if you look at the statistics and you're looking at calories when you shop, this is going to be pretty damn misleading, really. And the problem with calorie counting is you lead to this big build-up because you're eating the wrong type of foods, thinking actually it's leading to weight loss. But it's also driving those blood sugar level imbalances during the day as well. So that's why we don't, you know, believe that's right. So how do you keep your blood sugar level stable? Well, you go for low glycemic load carbohydrates. So what does that mean? Low glycemic low carbohydrates are these: vegetables, you know, the full range of vegetables, pulses, everything from lentils to beans, chickpeas, grains like brown rice, through to wholemeal pasta, fruit, and these are the key low glycemic load carbohydrates that are key to a healthier diet, you know, and maintaining stable blood sugar levels during a day. You can also do these simple swaps to have less of impact on blood sugar levels. So you can swap fries for sweet potato and squash, which tend to have, a much better balance. White rice for whole grain rice, cereals for oats, sweetened yogurt for natural probiotic yogurt, etc. People should really be considering this, particularly if they're working and eating from home. The other thing is, the obvious thing is watch out for hidden sugars. So hidden sugars come in drinks, processed food, so-called healthy snacks. You see so much promo of healthy snacks in supermarkets and stuff like that, and sauces. But the issue is, it will still increase blood sugar levels, cause an increase in insulin, and require the body to bring back to normal balance. So going for fashionable snacks and drinks sometimes is not the right approach if it's got hidden sugar in terms of other elements, particularly fruit and that type of thing if it's an overload. Meal combining, basically, eating 3 good meals a day is going to be far better than eating every half an hour during a whole day. One, you give your pancreatic, organ, a break for it to do its work, etc. But also, it keeps your blood sugar levels stable, and your body can digest properly and then absorb the nutrients from eating properly during that day. So that's not a great idea. But also eat regularly. I do recommend, and we do talk about breakfast. A lot of people skip it, a lot of people don't bother with it. It's a critical meal of the day, and so having regular meals is also a good thing, for your general nutritional balance, and eating a balanced diet. Simple approach: eat real food. Real food is ingredients. It doesn't contain ingredients. Theoretically, you buy stuff from the farm, it doesn't contain an ingredients label. That's because it's in its primal form, as it should be, really. So if it ran, swam, grew, flew or grew, eat it, but everything else leave behind. That's a simple guide if you need it. So let's talk about real food a bit more. So, eggs are phenomenal for mental health, as well as, general health. They're a complete form of protein. They're one of the most complete forms of protein that's out there. They've got good healthy cholesterol. They've got good vitamins like B vitamins. Zinc is critical, particularly this time as well, for general body health and immunity. So eggs are a super way. Nuts, almonds for bone health, really, really good. We've got essential vitamins like calcium and zinc as well. These are just a few examples, but beetroot, phenomenally good for cardiovascular health, because it's got this, betaine, B9, etc. That rich, dense color gives it a lot of that benefit as well. So let's move on to fats now. So, fats, basically, healthy fats are absolutely a good thing to eat in real food, because they give you fat-soluble vitamins, and they really do slow down the digestion of a meal. And omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory. They also help, in generating healthy cholesterol, which is actually really key for, your brain and nervous system, your sex and stress hormone production, as well as regulating critical things like blood pressure. So healthy fats are definitely a good idea, really. So some facts around healthy fats. You know, saturated fat does not lead to heart disease, etc. You know, fat storage needs insulin, which is the same as carbohydrate intake. It's not the same. Excess sugar doesn't automatically go to fat. I hope I explained that earlier, really. You know, some really essential things is real food combines different fats. So you've got a lot of mix of healthy fats, you know, and cholesterol is in real food. So getting fat smart, as we call it, you know, oily fish smash, if you've ever heard of that. These are typical oily fishes, which are very high in good fat: salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardine and herring. Not everyone's cup of tea because everyone eats cod and chips, but if any of you do eat these, they're enormously good for health. Ditch vegetable oils and health. You know, try and cook. We cook at home with virgin olive oil if we can. It doesn't, you know, it's not appropriate for extremely high temperature cooking, but it's very good for just general hob cooking and everything else. And failing that, coconut oil. Minimize processed food as well, really. Spreads like margarine, don't do it if you can avoid it. You know, eat real butter if you're going to do that. Spoken about fish. Try and eat more plants. You know, that includes vegetables, pulses, grains, etc. that I was talking about earlier. And try and fit them into your schedule, you know, if you can, particularly if you're working from home. We've got lots of tips for people in workshops around what do you do when you go out the whole time, whether that's internal team stuff or you go out, you know, with clients and other businesses. How do I keep healthy? So we give people loads of tips around that. What about eating on the move? You know, what to avoid, what to go for, you know, when you're moving around offices, for instance. What do you do at home? So, you know, how do you stock your healthy kitchen and that type of thing? I forgot to mention we have a Sano cooking school as well. So Heather does cooking demonstrations for companies live. So we cook, we explain ingredients, and we do interactive workshops explaining that. And we also do cooking demos online, etc., for students and other communities, really. So, you know, that's just a taster, really. But the main, you know, points I just wanted to bring out is actually eating well, living more is all about eating real food. It's all about having that varied diet, being carb smart, so low glycemic load foods. Don't do the myths like count calories, grazing throughout the throughout the day. Don't fear fat. You know, there's a lot of fats that are very good for you. And omega-3 consumption, very, very important. Smash fish varieties. But, you know, ultimately, a lot of people are cooking from home now. You know, one of the things, you know, the virus impact has done is people genuinely are doing more real food, more cooking. They're actually focusing more on less food waste, which is pretty good. You know, and you've got, you know, I think it's great to see so many families eating together rather than, you know, not eating together or even having TV dinners and stuff like that. So it's a real sense of community, really, in terms of that. So hopefully, yes, giving you a taste. We cover more, and you know what we do in the workshops is we kind of go through these areas. This is typically what our workshops look like. So we talk about what to eat and how to optimize in a way that, you know, really suits you personally. That whole practical area of how to apply healthy eating in practice at work, home, or on the go. We do cooking videos and cooking demos, as I said, to explain to people actually how to cook some of the dishes that we do, and we share recipes. And also how to eat, the importance of mindful eating and the digestion, mindful eating exercises. We don't just do nutrition, so we do workshops on, mind food and food for mental health, etc., and more specialized areas. Each workshop tends to be tailored, to each client. We do one-off workshops as well as we work with companies on regular programs of workshops. Typically, as I said, they're 15 to 50 people. My wife, Heather, runs them. She's the expert, and she has an education team that within the Sano School of Culinary Medicine that join the workshop, and we break people up into tables and groups. So we do a bit of group exercises as well as general interaction within the whole group. They seriously are lively and fun because people are super interested in this for their own health as well as the health of others. And a lot of people ask a huge array of questions around what they've heard, what their situation is, and also about their team. If you've got a manager there, they're asking about their team's health and how to help them, really. We have a book called Eat Well, Live More, and we give everyone out one of those. Obviously we've got an e-version given the virus, because but we can put copies in the post as well, but we tend to give them out at the workshops. Typical cost is around £20 per head, depending on the size of company and the program, one-offs, etc. Obviously the pricing varies, but that's just to give you an idea. And I'm also the COO of Audit, which is a corporate food business in London, working with many big and small corporate clients, and we often combine it with Audit to do a healthy lunch if people would do a 1-hour workshop followed by a community lunch with a team. So I hope that gives you an idea of what we do day in, day out, really, at Sano, but also in terms of that. Each business will have its own requirements, so none of this is a template. Every workshop we do is tailored to what that team or that business needs, and what their people really want to cover. And so we're pretty flexible on that, because it has to really work for the business and for the individual. I hope that's helped. So it'd be great if we, if I could pick up any questions or general comments, and let some of you participate.
Doug, you've got a question on the chat from Ave. You mentioned salmon as a healthy option of food many times. Is that so, bearing in mind most of it is farmed?
What, in terms of, sorry, can you just repeat that?
Yeah, so you've mentioned salmon as a healthy option a number of times. Is that so, bearing in mind most of the salmon is farmed?
Yeah, that's a great question. The reality is that most salmon is not cheap. Let's be honest. For most people, buying salmon regularly is not cheap. You're absolutely right. Most salmon is farmed. You can generally, tell the quality of the salmon by its color. Now, at the far end of the spectrum, wild salmon, Alaskan wild salmon, is generally pretty pink, and it is wild and it's pretty expensive. Organic salmon that you can buy at most of the good supermarkets is generally healthier than but it can still be farmed and be organic. But it's done in a way that is using natural resources, but they're in a closed environment. But generally that's a better option. But organic salmon is also more expensive than normal salmon. And you're absolutely right. Most salmon is farmed. Farmed salmon, you still get nutrients from. You're just going to get less. It's a less dense form of nutrient density than wild salmon and organic. Obviously, if you can afford wild salmon, even better.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Hopefully that's answered that for you. So I wanted to know how you can sort of transfer this to the workplace. So we've got a number of office and facilities managers on, and it'd be interesting to see how you think healthy, or how they can influence healthy eating in the workplace.
Well, the main thing we do with companies, this is pre-virus mainly, is that the benefit of it is that we can use the corporate facilities, because this is all done at companies. We don't do it, at Sano. We can do it at Sano's premises, but really, it's much better in the office environment. And people do already a huge array of team activities, ranging from brown bag lunches through to events and that type of thing to engage employees. We tend to find that this topic of wellness and nutrition is hugely popular. And whenever companies try and do it, they normally have oversubscription for the workshops. Simply because it's far more valuable to people individually. So we work with facilities and office managers and typically the HR team within a company, and arrange for the workshops to be really interactive and lively, but also in the right area, in the right place, so that they can be interactive in a group open plan environment, near the canteen, if you're going to do demos, if we're allowed to do cooking demos, etc. And if we do a regular program, or for many teams, then we basically do a structured approach with time slots which are organized through facilities and the office manager. So we do obviously at the minute we're doing virtual workshops, which are much easier and simple, but that's how we would work with facilities managers and office managers.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it. Has anyone else got any other questions? Just looking at the chat. No? Okay, super. Well, thank you so much, Doug. That's been really insightful and helpful. I know I'm not eating particularly healthily at all at the moment. Feeding my son more healthily than myself, stupidly, but there we go. Okay, super. Thank you so much for joining, everybody, and hope you have a lovely rest of the day.
Yeah, you too, everyone. Many thanks, and hope you enjoyed it.
Take care.